don't typically post a ton of Skaven gameplay because I'm not the Skaven main by any means, but I do have to say they are incredibly strong right now, it seems like, in land battles based on my own experience and replays people have been sending me, but for whatever reason, it doesn't seem like that many people are playing them. It's hard to say. In this particular build, we're going to have Gorich with the Packmaster. You saw there in the opening, a couple of Rat Ogres, a Warp Lightning Cannon, Grey Seer Lore of Ruin, Skaven Slave Slingers, of course, 3 Poisonwind Globadiers, and this is definitely one of the staples of Skaven. What makes them so strong is the fact that Globadiers are still so good. Got some Clan Rat Spears and Skaven Slave Spears, as I am fighting Bretonnia, and I'm, of course, expecting some cavalry. It's against my patron Noldor here. He's got Rapunzel with Henri leading the way. Knights of the Realm out on the far side, along with some Pegasus Knights hard landed in the woods over here. I don't think they can actually hide, but that is hilarious. Got some peasant mobs here, some Royal Pegasus Knights over here with Knights of the Realm as well. Looks like Knights Errant in the back with some Battle Pilgrims and some Archers with Pox and Fire Arrows mixed. So let's get things rolling here. Well, yeah, Gorich is definitely another thing that makes Skaven strong, and the switch to percentage-based healing makes the Packmaster healing Boulder units just that much stronger. And I don't know, I don't think Rat Ogres got any direct buffs. They maybe got a tiny bit of leadership in Immortal Empires. I don't remember exactly, but it just seems slightly more effective than before. And I do think they're, what, 700 cost, which is pretty nice. And just in general, Skaven had a lot of really great tools. Their AoE magic damage is some of the best in the game. Lore of Ruin. Basically, you can't go wrong with any of the spells, really, but in particular with the Grey Seer, I love having this dreaded 13th spell for a massive damaging explosion, plus Storm Vermin Summon, especially obviously in a matchup like this, where those Storm Vermin's anti-large armor piercing damage is going to be directly applicable. But we're going to get a nice pitched combat ensuing between the hero squads, Gorich and his Packmaster fighting it out with Rapunzel and Henri. It's going to be a heroic battle of the ages. Meanwhile, these Knights of the Realm try and get a charge in. I'm not sure exactly what they're targeted on. It looks like probably on the Rat Ogres, but going 2v1 here and getting counter collapsed is a little bit rough. I'm also going to drop a little Warp Lightning there to help speed their passing. A little bit of Earthblood to heal everything up as Rapunzel and Henri are taking significant damage. But Gorich is also getting absolutely beat down. He does have insane weapon strength while both of those effects are active, up to 900 weapon strength with both of those. Meanwhile, in the rest of the battlefield here, you can see the Bretonian cavalry came in, swooped in on my lightning cannon. They're going to get on those Poisonwind Globadiers, but to be honest, this is a fine trade with me. These Royal Pegasus Knights, regular Pegasus Knights are 1-to-1 much more expensive than the yeah, the Globadiers obviously are much cheaper, right? So this is actually going to be a fairly cost-effective trade for me, even if I end up losing out on the Globadiers. And of course, nice blob in the center is beautiful for a dreaded 13th as men-at-arms get catapulted into the sky, and then they're replaced with Storm Vermin, ringing bell in the background. Skaven are pretty cool. I'm not, like I said, not a Skaven main by any means, probably never would be, but they are pretty awesome, you have to admit. And definitely very strong, but Bretonia's going to try and respond here. A little bit of Dwellers below to tear up those Rat Ogres. Unfortunately, is also going to damage those Knights Errant a little bit here. Gorich did get routed off, and Noldor here a little bit hung up on other parts of the battlefield. Perhaps doesn't notice. Maybe had an opportunity to rear charge Henri in there and finish him off, but instead Rapunzel gets surrounded by Rat Ogres and the Packmaster, and that sustain of that percent-based heal on those Rat Ogres with their new ultra unit size health pools, it's just much easier to sustain them. And as a result, you know, I honestly think the cost reduction was probably unnecessary at the end of the day. You should probably go back to like 750, 800, but we'll see how the rest of this battle goes. Certainly Noldor's going to try his best to fight back here, recover some of his units. Some of Storm Vermin are offline, and he does have a handful of calves still sitting around. The nice thing about these Skaven Slave Slingers, though, is they can kind of act as a little bit of body blocking for the Poisonwind Globadiers and other more important units. But don't go anywhere. I've got some more beautiful Skaven gameplay to show you guys. So we're going to take a look at a different style of build, somewhat, and a different opponent as well. But just thought I'd show you guys this one real quick. pretty interesting to me how strong Skaven are right now, and I think the Rat Ogres, Gorich also being like viable and reasonably strong also helps. Their magic damage being buffed, kind of indirectly, and then, yeah, of course, Globadiers still, they have been for quite some time, but are absolutely devastating. Yeah, like, look at them, just delete that unit of Battle Pilgrims basically to the man there. Absolutely brutal. While Henri tries to get away from the Packmaster. Packmasters are also just generally pretty decent. The Brood Horror is not crazy good, but it is quite fast with poison and regeneration. And certainly that sustainability with the Packmaster, of course, is that much extra. Like Gorich here, I fortunately don't get to see exactly how much healing he got, but it was likely enough healing to make the difference between him shattering or not. Here, my Gracier gets caught out momentarily. Of course, Ponce is a very scary combatant, so she's going to do a good job of dealing damage to him. But nice little Warp Lightning there, and a swift reinforce from the Packmaster. Gorich also lumbering in the background there. Would be enough to finish this game off. So like I said, I've got another replay to show you guys, possibly a third if I have time to record it. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly how much time I'm going to have as of the time of recording this, but we'll see. A little bit of a Scorch there. The Bound Scorch also, I must admit, from the Bell, right? So there's the Scorch spell, but any Graciers who then take the Screaming Bell mount can also get this Bound Scorch. It doesn't cost Winds of Magic and also has unlimited uses. Scorch itself is a pretty decent damaging spell. Fairly solid overall. Not the best AP. In fact, 0% AP. But still quite effective in dealing with, especially like archers and like long lines of infantry. It has a fairly long strike area, so pretty effective. At the end of the day, with the build he had there, Noldor, I think maybe had he had his cavalry timings a little bit better and just punish, Gorich when he gets routed off, maybe things would have worked out. It's tough though. I mean, the Royal Pegasus Knights I like on paper. Practice, both the Pegasus Knights struggle to perform here. And another thing that kind of weighs on Bretonnia in this matchup is not having great access to terror. All your terror units are relatively expensive, vulnerable to magic damage in the case of the Green Knight, although he might still be useful enough here to warrant taking. Of course, he could take the Manticore Summons, but then that's dedicating a lot of Winds of Magic to that, which is not necessarily going to help you in other ways, like Dwellers Below would, in terms of just deleting units outright. So it's tricky for Bretonnia's side, but from the Skaven's perspective, I feel like this and some other matchups you can get away with using fairly similar builds, and that's one thing that I think, not that I'd recommend them to a new player because it is very micro-intensive managing these large armies, but Skaven are faction that, again, I think you can play a similar style and similar-ish builds against most factions and come out okay. Let's go ahead and take a look now, though. We've got one versus Dark Elves, submitted by Giamma, so let's go ahead and take a look at that one next. I'll see you there. This time, it's Giamma's Dark Elves facing off against Human Boy's Skaven. Yes, Human Boy is a content creator on YouTube. You don't know his channel and you enjoy Total War Warhammer multiplayer, definitely go check him out. He is, again, the Skaven player here, living up to his name. And he's brought Ikit Claw, who is definitely one of the coolest lords in the game. Is more expensive, certainly, than the Gracier, but let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the build. He does have Gorich also, but no Packmaster. Instead, he's got an Assassin with a sneaky assassination debuff. I was initially thinking that this was questionable, and I think maybe arguably it'd still be better to have the Packmaster, considering he also has 4 Rat Ogres here. But this is specifically geared towards taking out this guy right here, Malice Darkblade. Combination of Gorich and the Assassin's debuffs in particular should make that fight fairly one-sided in favor of the Skaven. Got Poison Wind Globes, Skaven Slave Spear, some Skaven Slaves up front, lots and lots of chaff. So it's like chaff, Rat Ogres, and then the Heroics. Got some Gutter Runners with Poison for a little bit of skirmish. Poison and a hybrid unit-ish. And then for the Dark Elves, Dark Riders out in the flanks. Like I said, Malice leading the way. We've got Lore of Death here. 2 Manticores for cheap terror. Old One Knights and some Dark Shards with shields. Alongside the not-so-sad swords. Single unit of Witch Elves, not the Sisters of Singing Doom for additional terror and cost. Probably smart. Witch Elves are fairly expensive, high DPS, but they are very much at risk of taking a disgusting volley to the face here from these Poison Wind Globes. Yep. Nope, nope. Actually, the Poison Wind Globes going after the Dark Shards, which is probably tactically the right call. Trying to protect high-value units from those armor-piercing missiles. See here, Ikit Claw is starting to make his attack run. Nice. The globes shooting up in the sky there actually do hit the Manticore. It pulls up on station. He's going to unleash a brass orb on those Witch Elves, start utilizing the shooting attack of his Doom Wheel. It's a very strong triple shot, and then here comes the Assassin Squad. Gorich and his tiny little friend getting into fight. Malice Dark Blade. You can see the Assassin moving in here now, and the debuffs are significant. I mean, Assassin's Trophy puts him down. Already, Zarkan is forced to come out of his closet and face the world here, as Malice just got absolutely creamed by Gorich there. And the Dark Elf Cavalry is still succeeding, and I mean, obviously, Skaven Slaves aren't going to hold out against Dark Elf basic infantry, so they do start to break through on certain fronts. Also got the Cold One Knight sweeping up and around the flank here, looking to get a nice armor-piercing charge, finish off those globes, use their anti-large bonus on the Rat Ogres. But here in the center, poor Zarkan is dying alarmingly fast, and anytime I see Zarkan die fast, it's pretty impressive, to be honest. He is an exceptionally tanky character, sort of the Malice Zarkan combo. Generally is very tough to kill, but here, man, the debuffs plus just the raw damage output, Cleansing Ruin also being dumped in here, which is essentially, again, we go back to Skaven having very good AoE magic damage. This is on par with something like a Final Transmutation, arguably better, but just leads to Zarkan straight up dying there. So it's going to be a quick one. I respect Giamma for submitting a replay that went like this. Very few people would be willing to submit something that went this badly for them, but I have a mad amount of respect for someone who's willing to send this in. And I mean, it's not completely out of it. Yeah, he is teetering on the edge of army losses here, but let's see. It's continuing to run around to just destroy units. Yeah, I was gonna say army losses is imminently closing. Although the Manticore and the Cab could maybe get some work done. They were able to rout off a large portion of the Skaven army, not surprising, but just, yeah, devastating. Absolutely devastating. Gorich there showing his power as a duelist with the support of the Assassin, just absolutely destroys the face of Malice Darkblade, and everything else just kind of follows suit. The rest of the army just kind of crumbles. Of course, the Globadiers, very strong. I really think their damage just needs straight up nerf for them to ever be close to balanced, but probably won't happen. Anyway, yeah, I guess we do have time for that one more replay. That one went even faster than what I remembered it was, so got one more versus the different elves, the more proud and haughty High Elves. So let's get to that, and we'll finish up there. Now we're back with another of my foul Skaven hordes. Of course, you can tell because it's led by the Gracier. Having a grand old time on his bell. We've got, again, Gorich and the Packmaster. Swapped out the Warp Lightning Cannon for the Regiment of Renowned Jezzails. We've also got the Regiment of Renowned Council Guard here. 2 Rat Ogres, 2 Poison Wind Globes, 6 Slaves with 3 Spears, 3 Swords, and 2 Clan Rat Spears as well. Up against Rider of Rohan's High Elves, and he did not take Tyrion, surprisingly enough, although Tyrion can be very good in this matchup. Got Eltharion instead up in the sky, Arcane Phoenix, and it looks like a little bit more of like a skirmish kite build. He was definitely expecting me to have a more stationary kind of missile defense type build, and I've seen Rider of Rohan use builds similar to the one he has right now with, like, 4 Illyrian Reaver Archers. We've got a couple of Shadow Warriors here, a couple of Rangers, a couple of Bolt Throwers, and 1 Dragon Prince. So the idea is you kind of kite and skirmish with all these ranged units, and then Eltharion and the Dragon Prince can kind of hit and run as needed, but instead we're able to counterfire effectively with the Jezzails to take out 1 Eagle Claw, and then just rush in. And, if the Illyrian Reaver Archers choose to come attack these Skaven Slave Slingers, that's just fine with me. We can return fire, and as they attack 1 unit, just because there's so many of them there, it'll take them a long time to get through. Rider of Rohan tries to get a nice little attack in with his Arcane Phoenix to try and disrupt my backline, pressure those Natty Bubo with sharpshooters, but honestly, I'm totally fine with just abandoning Natty Bubos up to this at this point, I should say, due to the fact that they have already got very good value shooting at the Bolt Thrower there. They've already done significant damage to the Phoenix, So, not that they've necessarily paid for themselves, but tactically it's much more important for me to just keep my Doom Squad together, try and fight in this big blob here. You can see the Council Guard moving in to provide physical resistance to all of these characters, which will certainly help against the Dragon Princes and Eltharion while his Fang Sword's not active. Big explosion there, and once again, devastating damage done to those Dragon Princes as they get wrecked by the explosion, and then immediately terrified away by Gorich. Of course, the Storm Vermin's also doing nice anti-large AP damage there. So, although my backline is getting effectively cleaned up, I mean, the Skaven Slave Spears, Clan Rat Spears, trying to defend the Slave Slingers there. Natty Bubo's not long for this world. The rest of the army are able to punch through fairly effectively. Poisonwind Globes do manage to get in range just momentarily with the Shadow Warriors, and do some devastating damage, also trying to finish off the artillery crews here. But Gorich and his Rat Ogre squad definitely have the mobility to pressure up and just keep these Shadow Warriors in a most uncomfortable situation. They continue to just absolutely splatter them into the ground over here. Meanwhile, the race here coming to just support leadership, try and defend, make sure we finish things off. Not really too worried about the bolt throwers at this point. They can do whatever they care. Yeah, it's just a matter of kind of cleaning up the rest of what he's got here, but making sure we do so in a smart fashion, keeping the Skaven Slave Slingers close, making sure we're actively shooting the Irian Reaver Archers here. Of course, Reaver Archers, reasonably light armor. 40 armor is decent, but it's definitely still what I would consider light armor. And the weather just changed, like in the middle of the replay there. All of a sudden, I feel like things got very dark. But anyway, yeah, things are definitely getting dark for the High Elves on the ground as units are getting chased off here. Council Guard get in, shut down that last bolt thrower. And it's pretty much just the Reavers and the mobile units, the Eltharion and the Arcane Phoenix running around. Doing a decent job. A little bit of jittery camera movement. Apologize about that. Doing a decent job running around, terrifying away my low-tier units, keeping them routing, but of course, the main sort of body of my value is still down here cleaning up all of this stuff. So we'll fast forward a little bit, as we've already been through a few replays, as I kind of consolidate here, come back towards the low-tier troops, which are surprisingly still hanging on. And this is a thing here with ultra unit sizes, you know, Skaven just having even more models than before definitely plays into their strengths. They might be one of the factions that actually benefited the most from the Ultra change. Some factions were definitely hindered by it, and it was probably a balance change that was unintendedly large. Like, it ended up affecting probably a lot more things than what we or CA had initially anticipated, but definitely an interesting one. And yeah, Arcane and Forging is terrible. Ryder Rohan was just testing it out here, see how it would do as I smack my mic stand. Yeah, never take that spell. Lore of High Magic is unfortunately probably one of the worst lores in the game right now. I mean, it does have Apotheosis, which is okay, and Agori, again, is okay, but that Fiery Convocation still takes too long to wind up and deploy. Cast time and animation time is too long. Even with the low responsiveness, it's still dodgeable, which is pretty impressive, to be honest, considering how slow, especially like Kislev infantry units respond. But anyway, Phoenix goes down, and that is immediately going to cause army losses. Ryder Rohan was holding out hope there for a rebirth proc, but it didn't happen. And I mean, he probably would have lost regardless. It's very unlikely that even had the Phoenix fully healed, the Eltharion and the Phoenix could have carried the game. Maybe there's a small possibility, I guess, but still. Eltharion just noping out with a good majority of his HP left is pretty hilarious, to be honest. But that's it for today for some nasty Skaven gameplay. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you played a lot of land battles recently, been playing in tournaments, or whatever else, let me know your thoughts on the Skaven. I haven't been playing much competitive lately, but I think if I were to, the Skaven would definitely be a faction that I would brush up on and really hone in, because it seems so strong right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.